Author is funded by the Pacific Northwest Writers Association, supporting writers from pen to publication since 1955. To learn more about the PNWA and their yearly conference, please go to pnwa.org. Hi, this is Bill Kenower of Author Magazine, and I'm here at the University Bookstore in Seattle, Washington with Deborah Harkness, author of The Book of Life. Deborah, welcome to Author.
Thank you so much, Bill. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Deborah, as we speak, a crowd of people is gathering below us for the release of your third book, The Book of Life, the third in the trilogy. If you had been told 20 years ago, when you were probably deep in your academic life, that this is what would have been going on tonight, would you have believed it?
No. You could have told me in 2007 that this was going to happen and I wouldn't have believed you.
Was that when you started
I started in 2008. Okay. And literally, if you had said in 2007, you're going to write a novel, I would have bet my house against it. I mean,
just the writing of the novel?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because no one was ever going to read this. I mean, I wrote it in my pajamas, and I gave it to my mother as my first reader, and I thought, you know, I remember saying, maybe if just somebody will publish it in paperback, and then it's so much fun. Maybe I could tell myself it was okay to do it, you know, during my summer vacations or whatever. I never would have imagined. I have never taken a creative writing class. I last did creative writing in 10th grade. So to say that this was a bolt out of the blue is not an understatement.
So that's how, if we were to watch the sort of story of your life, it would have looked like a bolt out of the blue. But I never believed that these things come out of nothing. You know, it seems to me it's always germinating somewhere. You were writing, of course. You were writing academic work and about wine, yes. So you had a relationship with writing already, it sounds like.
I had a relationship with writing, and I have a relationship with sharing ideas because I teach. And I think that it was this kind of interesting intertwining of my writing life, which was really addressing a very small audience of fellow historians who are having often very insular conversations amongst themselves, and my life as a teacher, where I'm trying to reach a wider audience. And I think there was something in me that thought, okay, wait a minute, is there a way to go even bigger than that? Would people be able to be interested in the things I care about, science and magic, and the ways that history can tell us things that are important about who we are today and in the future? And that was part of the joy of it back when it was an experimental thing I was doing that nobody would read. And so to have all those people, you know, getting their chair, you can hear them getting into their chairs downstairs, and the happy chatter is just such an amazing privilege and treat. Absolutely, because I was just thinking about this the other day. The book takes place in the reader. It's completely, the reader has to feel everything, has to live everything for the book to exist. If they simply read the words, nothing happens. And they have to feel everything. Feel it's all feeling. It's all about feeling. Yeah. And in my classroom, one of the things that I really emphasize is what I call historical empathy, which is looking back at people in the past and not judging them, but trying to understand them. So the best example of this is I always have students come in who think Henry VIII was a monster. And what I always say to them is, okay, so you're 18 and someone hands you a country. What are you going to do? And all my students say the same thing. I'm going to have a really good time. And I said, Henry VIII was 18 when he got handed the crown. And guess what? He had a really good time for a while. Then it caught up with him in a bad way. But it changes their whole perspective on Henry VIII, because suddenly they're thinking, yeah, what? I don't know anything. If I was put in charge of a guy, I'd make really bad decisions. So it's a way of developing that ability to understand before we judge. And so we're here in Seattle, and I know that to finish this book, you took a little trip to this part of the world. You're from Los Angeles, but
talk about that time you spent at Hedge Brook. You were just telling me earlier that it kind of helped you save this book. Is that
It really did. I
much?
was really struggling in getting the book off the ground. I knew where the book needed to go, and it was so frustrating. It was like I could see it and I couldn't get there. And in part it was because I had so many people, so many characters, sort of agendas and different perspectives on my mind, and what I needed was the kind of peace and quiet and time that Hedge Brook on Whidbey Island provides to writers. I was trying to figure out too many complicated things on freeways and while doing laundry and cooking and keeping a house going. So I got this amazing opportunity to go to Hedge Brook, and all the noise got quiet. And I was able to focus on the voices of my characters and to be in a really magical place. There was an owl who, sat on I was an owl cottage, and there was this owl came on sort of day 5, and she sat out there and screeched and howled in the middle of the night, and it was an extraordinary experience, and also to be with a community of writers and to be able to just kind of feel that, hear their stories about the rough patches that they'd gone through, and to know and to develop a kind of sense of trust again that it was all going to be okay. So it really helped me.
Helped you to focus. I'm so glad you told that story. I think a lot of times writers who are at the beginning of their journey don't understand that writers like yourself, who are already having a successful fiction writing career going, still experience that sense of uncertainty and, I don't want to call it blockedness, but a certain confusion around what to do, even though you love the story.
Right.
And you wanted to tell it. You still had to find your way.
Oh yeah, and you always, I think, there's something somewhat magical about writing, really, and you, I think, always fear on some level that maybe this is the moment that where the magic stops.
Now it dries up.
Now it's
this
all
is it.
over.
Yeah.
It's all been a freak of nature, and now this is reality back. Because of course we all can remember the time when we weren't writing.
And every writer knows well, I don't want to speak for you, but certainly in my case and a lot of the writers I know, there's what you have in your mind, then you come to the blank page, and then there's what happens.
Right.
And you can't count on what's going to come.
No.
And you don't want, and in a way, at least I don't want to.
Absolutely,
That's
you don't want to.
That's the good stuff.
That's the organic part of
That's
writing.
right.
And that's the part where you have to trust.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been really hard trying to force this is what needs to happen. I need to be in control of this. It's the end of a trilogy. I can't let it. And
that was probably it.
I think it was it.
Yeah.
It was me holding on too tight to my agenda and not letting the characters do their thing and develop.
You aren't in charge.
Oh, I'm not.
Yeah.
And my colleagues who are historians say to me, "Oh, you're so lucky you write fiction because you're in charge of everything." And I said, "Really? I didn't get that memo because that is not my experience." And so I had whole characters who walked in that literally I had no idea. And I thought, who invited them to this party? And it really is, unless you've experienced it, it sounds very strange and completely unbelievable. But if you have written fiction, I'm guessing you hear this and you say, yes, that happened to me.
Well, I have one more question for you.
Okay.
And what I'd like you to do is finish this sentence for me. If writing has taught me anything, it's taught me what?
It's taught me patience.
Yeah. Just on a word-to-word basis, or just for the whole process?
The whole process.
Yeah.
I am not a patient person.
No?
And I'm also a little bit of a control freak. My friends are now laughing when they listen to this. So, it is about that kind of, letting go and letting the creativity happen instead of trying to rush it, trying to do it on your schedule. Creativity just doesn't work that way, I don't think. At least I don't think it does for me. Maybe it does for some. Maybe some people are lucky and they can command creativity. I'm not one of them.